Now, obviously, that's in the Senate, but we have the ability in the House to make sure we do everything we can to have conservative constructionist judges on the bench. Other questions? Yes, sir.
No, I remember our last Republican Congress that spent like a bunch of drunken sailors, threw principle out the window. I remember when George Bush went to campaign for our inspector, instead of a good conservative candidate that was running against him in the primaries. I remember a lot of things about the Republican Party, and I no longer send them a dumb.
Sure.
I do not trust them. And when the establishment, the RNC or whomever, picks a candidate, I automatically shy away from that candidate. I want you to tell me, since I think the party would prefer you, why I should have a different candidate.
First of
Why
all,
should I trust you?
First of all, they have not come out to support me. They have not.
You'll probably be
I wish-
better off if they don't.
Well, I'm just telling you. You know, I keep hearing the big rumor when I got into this race is that John McCain and the NRCC and the RNC were going to raise me $1 million. Well, I haven't seen the $1 million. Let's put it that way. I've run my own campaign. 95%. We raised $500,000, a lot of money. One of the highest totals in the country. And you know what? 95% of all of those dollars came from the state of Arizona, not from out of state. No other candidate can say that, including the incumbent Congresswoman, Gabrielle. Those are people that live in southern Arizona, they live in the state of Arizona. I haven't made trip after trip after trip to Washington, D.C. I've basically run on my record, and I've run on what I believe in. And all I can tell you is that you're going to see, everyone is going to tell you that I have the right answer and I'm the best candidate.
Yeah.
But I'm the only one that actually has a record. And you can ask me individual questions about any vote I've ever made, and I'll answer that question why I voted the way I vote. But you have to trust on faith every other candidate that they are going to do what they say they're going to do. I'm going to tell you right now, you asked about spending. I believe in my heart that earmarks are killing, and Parkhurst Building are killing this country. And I'll give you an example why. At that trip that I was talking about, when you stand in the gallery of Congress and you look down on the floor and you see the floor of Congress, John Murtha, when he was alive, when he walked to his seat, they called him the king of court for a reason.
Yeah.
When he walked to his seat, a line would form. And people would go up to him and basically ask him a favor, bend down like they were talking to Godfather, and ask for a favor, one after the other. You're absolutely right. Republicans let down this country when they had control of Congress. Absolutely. 40% of all of the earmarks that were requested were from Republicans. That's what's killing this country. I've already stated that I'm not going to be accepting earmarks. Not any of my opponents have said the same thing. Gabrielle Giffords is going to tell you that this is what the debate's going to be in this election. She's going to say, this is the bacon that I brought down to southern Arizona. And I'm going to say, this is what's clogging the arteries of this country, is all this pork. Absolutely. Because we cannot sustain it. We are so in debt right now to the Chinese, we cannot sustain it. And I don't want your children, your grandchildren, to be starting out their lives under a mountain of debt before they're even born. And I've taken that stance, and I've gotten hit for it already. And that's why they follow me around. Because they want to know, they want everyone to think that that all this pork is a good thing. Let me ask you this. She spent millions of tax dollars on a trolley car from, I'm not making this up, a trolley car from downtown Tucson to the University of Arizona. Who's going to ride that trolley car? I was talking to some students in Vail, and this one girl, it was like the wisest statement I've heard yet on that topic. She said, why don't they just give us a bus? She said, because I want to get out of Vail. And why can't they give us a bus? Why do they have to build a $60 million trolley car? And that's not, here's the other thing, that's not even in her district. That's in Robert Halda's district. So I'm telling you right now, all you have to do is to go on my word, and that's all I've got. I also have a record, and you can ask me about individual votes, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to be asking for remarks when I'm in Washington, D.C.
What about term limits?
I think that anybody who wants to live their life in Congress ought to have their head examined. If you ever go to on that flight all the way to Washington DC and back. Who would want to do that because I plan on coming home every single week.
Well, but where do you stand on that?
I think that they're a good thing. When I was in the legislature, they had a bill that came up. I allowed it to go up for a vote just because I wanted people to be able to express their opinion on it. But I did not vote. The vote was to repeal term limits, and I voted against it. Other questions?
How many years do you have as a politician?
I started in 2004, and I got out this year
To run again.
to run for Congress. Yes, sir.
As a former drunken sailor,
You take exception to mine.
I ran out of money I stopped spending. These people don't.
Well, they have a bank in Beijing that they keep going to. That's what happens. Other questions?
There's very few people here that can convince Giffords has to go. So just so you know, make constituency here. You're preaching to the choir. But the situation in the United States is so bad, it goes way beyond humans.
Ray Louder.
And I hope you agree. The earmarks are a huge part of it, but the spending levels have to come down so drastically that people won't recognize what the government does anymore. I mean, the NEA, National Education, has to go. That money has to go out. The U.S. government can't do anything properly when it comes to money. Nothing. Every time they get involved with managing a program, whether it's Social Security or Medicare or the U.S. Post Office, it basically goes bankrupt. But because they can print money, it doesn't go bankrupt.
Well, you look at the stimulus bill, and I think that we were talking about the debt that we're going into. That trolley car project that we were talking about, that's a part of all that. And the thing is that it is a stimulus. It stimulates public sector jobs. But we all know that it's private sector jobs that we need in this country in order to truly stimulate the economy. And the problem is that we're not going to be stimulating those private sector jobs unless they're dependent on the government anyway. And I think that is taking away the free market spirit that this country was founded on. We have to dramatically cut spending. I voted for the largest spending cut in state history. And it was brutal to have to do that. Believe me. I got criticized by a lot of different groups because of it. But we did it because in the state of Arizona, we have to balance our books at the end of the day. It was difficult to do it. We have a lot of people that didn't always agree on everything. The states are like that. They say that in every single state, almost every single state, they have to balance the budget. They don't have to do that in Washington, D.C. In fact, they can continue printing money. We can't do that in the states. And yet we are living under federal burdens all the time, federal mandates that they don't fund here in the state of Arizona. I don't know if you know this or not, but we only control in our legislature 33% of the entire budget. The rest of it's controlled by the federal government. It's controlled by these crazy ballot measures that get passed. It's controlled by a lot of other things. 33% at the end of the day. That is not we should be running our own state as best we can. And we're given these strings attached from Washington, D.C. When I talked about the fact that the Constitution is the main issue in this election, it's because things like the 10th Amendment that say all powers that are not specifically prohibited to the states belong to the states or to the people. That's what we should believe in this country.
If you're a strict constitutionalist, what departments would you do away with?
I think that here's my opinion. I think that you look at any school district, you look at the environmental issues in this country, all of them could be better done by the states. Realistically, I don't think we're talking about votes, what we can actually get accomplished. It is almost like if you ever wanted proof for eternal life, look at a government program in this country.
Sure, but if you had your druthers, what departments would you abolish?
I think that there should be. I want to look at every single agency and say, is it constitutional? Should we continue funding this agency? Period. I don't think that we need to pick and choose. I think almost all of them are out of whack.
Well, okay, Sharon Engel, I don't know if anybody knows, the candidate that was chosen in Nevada was